Can't help but continue asking myself one question. Are we still in tribes? Like, I know we don't technically look at ourselves as still being in tribes, but when you actually take the context of what a tribe is and you apply it to, well, any country for that matter, and how much they pride themselves, it's very much what, well, older tribes um very much had. I mean, sure, you have pride in 90% of the things you do, but to have pride in an entire subsection of humans, nah, I'm again, nationalism is not something I'm really comfortable with. Like, I understand, sure, America currently is one of the freest nations. But why can't all the nations just follow suit? Again, more hypotheticals. They could, but again, you have cultural boundaries that sort of stop that from occurring. People who grow up in cultures that we in America can't fully comprehend, their culture is their way of life. It's everything to them. In America, we don't have much culture. Most of our culture is, well, Hollywood or New York or Florida or Texas. All of the other states don't necessarily get their own recognition. Even though in the states, if you live here, you too also know that every state has its own culture inside it. But we still rag on our own people from state to state. There's people that come out with jokes about Alabama and Arkansas, but you also have people who come out with jokes about California and New York. But then you also get the Midwestern jokes as well. And though a lot of cases they're just jokes, but in many other cases they're not. They're not. It's a sign of division and separation, a lack of unity, if you will. Now, again, this isn't even really a currency issue anymore. It's a culture issue. Because when you start breaking things down, it all just comes back down to culture. And when all of us sort of kind of stem from the same culture at the base level, and then you work your way through, you start to understand the differences between yourself and others. You make yourself aware that they are not you, and you are most certainly not them. Give me just one second. I kind of messed up. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Anyways, sorry about that. Anyways, what happens is we all get too we get too selfish when it comes to our own perspective. We think nobody understands who we are, what we do, and the things we want to achieve. And all in all, I I'm sure there's millions of people who are still waiting on flying cars, but as time progresses, you also sort of notice that the goals of people change. Sometimes they coincide with each other. In current history, right now, present time, um, we're all looking at, well, I'm just trying to keep it non-biased here, and I'm just sticking with the flying cars aspect of it. Okay. You have companies all around the world currently trying to achieve this. I mean, we have one company who has finally made it to fruition with their product, and they're finally getting it out there to the public. But a lot of companies are still being hindered. Now, a lot of danger needs to be addressed when it comes to flying vehicles, as does with every topic. Every topic needs some sort of caution. Okay. Everything doesn't really require tiptoeing, but everybody prefers tiptoeing without saying tiptoeing is their preferred option when it comes to communication with people whom they've probably never communicated with. To get to the base roots of what this current video is about, it is solely an unedited version of my own thought processes without filters. Because sometimes I decide to filter my speech and I neglect to go on to tangents. But this time I want to experiment and see kind of where my brain leads me rather than rather than shoving tangents aside and staying on one track. I'm going to try my hardest to just follow the tangents. Okay? Anyways, getting kind of back on track, kind of. Um with all the cultural differences between all of the countries and just individuals in general, it makes it very hard for unity to exist at all. With the current goings on with, well, the West Coast and the East Coast, and, well, our entire country currently, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not even gonna side with or against either side. Because if I'm being completely honest, neither side is in the right because they're both going about it wrong. Why can't they both have representatives sit down and discuss the issues at hand like adults instead of protests or instead of sending military? Why not have a single representative with all the ideas of the collective that they are trying to get across? Both sides come together and form a treaty. Because currently, as things are going right now, I don't I don't see this country going very much further without a civil war occurrence if conflict continues. And it's terrifying. It is. And it's very sad to hear. It's very sad to see. But if I'm being completely honest, bloodshed must stop on every side. Doesn't matter what country, doesn't matter what tribe you come from. Because we're all in a tribe of some kind. Whether we think it or not, other people already associate us with it. Now, these tribes, or in high school we call them cliques. Normally when people are in high school, they call groups of like-minded individuals cliques. And ultimately that doesn't go away with adulthood. In fact, it gets more prominent with adulthood. You start to really see whether you're alone or not in the world. You have some people who have all of the friends. Literally all of them. You have some people who don't have any of the friends. And it's these differences between us that follow us through into adulthood and sort of shape us to act the ways that we're acting. Whether you're in the military and you came from a broken home and you needed some sort of order in your life, or again, you came from a broken home and you wanted to see justice in the world. Both sides think they're right. Both sides think the other is wrong. Neither side is willing to listen, and neither side is willing to communicate. Now, I say not willing to communicate. But when it comes to powerful people, it's hard to communicate with them. The availability to do so is limited. And especially with somebody as powerful as the president. Somebody with that quantity of power is most certainly going to shake some people when it comes to confrontation. Especially because of armed guards. Not many of us have those. But, on the same token, the leader of the free nation is probably also terrified in the sense that there's hundreds, if not thousands, maybe even millions of people all grouping around the free nation. I just hope everything stays peaceful for everyone. There should be no bloodshed, no matter who it is. Blood has no reason to be spilt. And if we're too barbaric and too savage, too third world to realize that, then we're no different than the tribes that we came from a millennia ago. You don't you don't win fights through war. You win war through treaty. Through peace, you win war. You do not win war by fighting. Again, it also kind of begs the question, instead of making decisions based off of how many people die, why not make the decisions based off of, well, the collective individual? There shouldn't be one person making every single decision. I think everybody should be making every decision together. It sounds difficult and it sounds impossible, but I'm sure it's not. The technology is out there. I mean, we have more phones in this world than we do humans. Is it not ethical to give a phone to every person in the world and give them the ability to contribute to a collective vote? Is that wrong? If our collective society decided to have every individual make a decision on every decision, everybody gets a choice. Everybody gets a say. No voice doesn't matter. Double negative, which means every voice matters. But that's not how life works. You have greed, you have envy, you have lust, you have wrath. All of the deadly sins that all of us are told at a young age to never do. Don't be lazy. Don't steal. All these things that we're all told to never do. But I don't think we're told that enough. I don't think we're told to act a right way for long enough. Or more actively. If every individual was instead policing every individual and every individual was armed, every individual would be polite. An armed society is a polite society, taking a quote from Mick and Ralph from New Vegas. And it's true. An armed society is a polite society. If you know you're walking into a country where everybody has a gun and everybody is carrying them all of the time, and you have one too, would you not be polite to everybody? Obviously, because anybody who isn't, well, is taken care of, in a sense. Natural selection ultimately takes its course like it was meant to. And anger, betrayal, hatred all becomes a thing of the past, if I'm being honest. Nature is strange. And what I mean by nature is I'm talking about all nature. Whether it be human nature or weather or you name it, right? Nature is strange. Okay? Because normally with nature, the one weakness that a problem has tends to look a lot like it's might look a lot like its biggest flaw. Okay. It I probably completely botched that. Its weakness always seems to be its biggest strength. That's what I meant to say. Sorry for the confusion. I mean, this is true all of the time. Because we don't normally look at our own weaknesses as our own strengths. Because, again, we don't normally use them that way. We don't use our own strengths to fortify a weakness. Or see, this is generally the part that I try to stay away from with normal videos. This is the tangent area where my brain gets fuzzy and I can't figure things out. I'm gonna try my hardest to stay the course. I am attempting to. I'm sorry. I'll cut this part if I feel the need to. Give me just a second. I lost my train of thought. We as humans don't use our weaknesses as a strength. We don't confuse others by making our weakness look like a strength. But if we do, those who use their weaknesses as a strength ultimately turn out to be the ones that flourish mentally, physically, emotionally. They tend to bloom into something new. Their brain changes, their emotions shift. When you allow your brain to the possibility of using your biggest weakness as your biggest strength instead, and instead making others believe it's a strength when it's not, I think is where we as a species kind of fall behind, right? I mean, again, I'm I'm sure a lot of you are probably sick of the movie references, depending on how long you've been with the channel. But take World War Z for instance, right? They realized that in order to cloak themselves from the infected, they had to instead make themselves sick beforehand, right? There was a direction I was going with this, and I completely lost it. You know what? Fine. That's the end of this video. I apologize if this one was all over the place. Again, like I said, I was just trying to jump from tangent to tangent and trying to figure out where some dots connect and where others don't. This is just some ranting, if you will. But uh, my brain doesn't work like it used to. Y'all have a good one. I'm Gambit Scorch. See y'all in the next one. Bye.